What's good, everybody? Chris here again. Chris Goes Outdoors. Today we're going to take a look at the quilt I used on my Appalachian Trail through hike, the Enlightened Equipment Revelation 20-degree quilt. I purchased my quilt from Enlightened Equipment's on-the-shelf stock, and the specs were 850 fill power down tech down. This down is treated to make it more water resistant and helps it dry out faster when wet. We'll talk a bit more about that shortly. It's rated to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly negative 6.6 degrees Celsius. It has a 10D navy outer and a 10D charcoal inner. And for size, I went with the long, wide version. My quilt weighs in at 1 pound, 7.65 ounces, or 23.65 ounces total, which is pretty impressive for what you're getting. Compared to, say, a traditional mummy bag, quilts save weight by not having a full-length zipper, a hood, or extra down and material underneath you, as your sleeping pad will be taking care of that end of the insulation. One thing I love about this quilt is its versatility. The Revelation allows you to fully unzip the bag and use it like a large blanket when it's hot out, but it still gives you the option to zip up the bottom, cinch down the foot box, strap down the sides to your sleeping pad, and cinch down the neck area to keep you nice and warm on colder nights. You can also use it as sort of a throw when sitting around camp on a cold night, and it's great to have those options, especially on something like a through hike, when you never quite know what the weather's going to be and it can change at the drop of a hat. The quilt also packs down nice and small. It easily fits into the 13-liter provided stuff sack, or just skip the stuff sack altogether like I ended up doing on most of the Appalachian Trail. Just cram the quilt right into the bottom of your bag, and it'll fill up the empty spaces between other objects within your bag. The Revelation also includes Enlightened Equipment's strap system. This optional strap system helps to keep your sleeping quilt locked down to your sleeping pad, thus helping to keep the quilt in place better and keeping the warmth in. And it does so using two straps, which can be used in conjunction with each other or individually. One of the straps loops over your sleeping pad and connects to the Revelation quilt via a 2-clip system. The other strap connects to a different 2 clips on the Revelation, but is not intended to wrap around the sleeping pad. Instead, the strap is easily tensionable, allowing you to close up the space in the back of the quilt to fine-tune the fit for you. Enlightened Equipment offers the Revelation in some stock colors and configurations. However, if it's not exactly what you're looking for, you do have the ability to customize all sorts of options with the quilt. You can change the colors, the down fill power, temperature rating, length, width, etc., etc. The downside of the custom options is there is typically a lead time for them to be made, but it's nice to have the option to customize it completely to your specifications. Another plus for the Revelation, it held up very well. While I did not particularly abuse my quilt on the Appalachian Trail, I did use the quilt every night in both my tent and in shelters with no added protection. I would also cram it into my bag without a stuff sack quite often, and the bag itself held up great. It gained quite an aroma by the end of the trail, as most things do on a long distance hike, but even with washing and drying when I got it home 2 times to get rid of said aroma, the quilt is still holding up great. No holes or issues with anything on the quilt. The dry time was also noticeably reduced thanks to the down tech treated down, which also came in handy drying out the quilt after it would get damp on the trail. The post-trail washing also brought back a lot of loft to the down and made the bag look like new again. And while on the talk of the down tech treated down, there are some pros and some cons of this. The pro is that it makes the quilt more water resistant and it happens to dry out quicker than regular down. The downside is that down tech treated down can sometimes make the down not as lofty as the non-treated down. I personally found the quick drying properties of the down tech treated down to be a great upside on the Appalachian Trail. At 6 feet, roughly 200 pounds, I really enjoyed having the extra length and width of the long wide version of the Revelation quilt. It let me kind of roll around a little bit more without having to worry about the quilt coming off my body at all, and it also allowed me to pull it up over my head on nights when it was really cold out. Some people may not care for the additional weight or the additional size, but I for one am really glad that I chose the option, as the quilt stayed on me great, even as a restless sleeper who changes positions multiple times a night. As far as downsides to the Revelation, there aren't too many, but one of them is the temperature rating. I think the 20-degree rating is definitely a touch on the generous side. With temps around 40 degrees, I found the quilt warm enough in just, say, underwear and a t-shirt. Some nights on the trail, however, went down to around high 20s to low 30s, and while layered up pretty good with wool leggings, a mid-layer down jacket, hat, and sleep socks, I still would find myself fairly comfortable. For what it's worth, I consider myself a very warm sleeper. I do not think the average person would find this quilt comfortable down to 20 degrees, especially if they consider themselves a cold sleeper. I also want to take a minute to talk about the fabric used on the quilts. While I didn't have any durability issues with it, as a generally sweaty man, I found the fabric very sticky to the skin. There are times in the middle of the night I'd wake up sweating and the quilt would feel like it was glued to me. I would love to see them offer some different fabric types, at least for the inner portion of the quilt. I recently tried out a hammock gear burrow, and whatever fabric was used on that just feels much better to me personally. It's much softer and much less tacky. And let's take a second to talk price too. Well, I think the Revelation is a solid, well-made product, and I certainly don't regret my purchase at all. There are all sorts of options for quilts on the market now of comparable quality and competitive price. Underground Quilt Company, Hammock Gear, Katabatic Gear, Z-Packs, Loco Libre, just to name a few that I can think of off the top of my head. So it may be in your best interest as a frugal backpacker to shop around for the best price for a quilt that meets your specific needs. And other than that, I don't really have much bad to say about the Enlightened Equipment quilt. So I guess it comes down to, would I take it on the Appalachian Trail again? The answer to that is absolutely. The 20 degree long wide Revelation worked perfect for me on the AT. Even with the kind of generous temperature rating, I found the quilt adequately comfortable, especially when cinched up and layered up on the real colder nights. And during the dog days of summer, I just pop it open and use it like a blanket for added ventilation. It held up extremely well from the abuses of the trail with no special treatment from me, and it's still 100% functional. I actually preferred the quick drying and water resistant Downtech treated down for the rainy mess that is the Appalachian Trail. And the price, packability, weight, and features of this quilt make it very competitive, even still with all the other options that are available on the market. If there's one thing I would like to see addressed with the Revelation, it would be the kind of generous temperature rating that is given to them. But otherwise, I love the quilt. It worked extremely well for me out on the Appalachian Trail. Is this the right quilt for you? Only you can decide that. Take the information that you saw here, check out some other videos and other information you find online, and make the best informed purchase decision you can make. And that's going to do it, everyone. I hope the video was helpful. If it was, consider dropping a like. If you love the video, consider commenting and subscribing. You can follow me on Instagram as well at Chris Goes Outdoors. And until next time, we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.